Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. I would like to tell you about materials development. But firstly, I want to introduce myself first. My name is Wulida-4th. I'm from 4th semester, of course, from English department, from Al-Qalam Islamic Institute, Malang. First, I want to tell you about what and who are the agent for teaching and learning. Now, there is learners, teachers, and materials. Okay. The second is, what are the rules? The rules for the learner is success. I mean success that here it can be satisfied, relaxed, and enjoyable for the experience. And the second is for the teacher. Success for the teacher is can teach successfully. Can gain enjoyment themselves from their material that they are using. And the third is material. Material first, the rules is connect to learning experience in the classroom to their own itself. The second is engage the emotion of the learner. And the next question is, what is the definition of teaching and learning? The definition of teaching and learning is all the form material that can use for the teacher for learning activities. It can be written or not. And the next is, what is the form of teaching material? The form of teaching material is, the first is printed material, just like a module, books, brochure, leaflet, and wall chart. The second is audio visual, just like film, video, or VCD. Okay guys, the next is, what is the stage of material design? The first is material evaluation. The second is material adaptation. The third is material writing. And the next is how to evaluate textbook. To evaluate textbooks, we need infos measuring the value or potential value. The second is make judgment about the effect. And the third is the appeal of materials to learners. And the fourth is the validity itself. And the next is the ability of the material to interest the learner and the teacher. And the last is the ability of the material. The ability material is here can motivate to learner itself. And the next is how to conduct material evaluation. To conduct evaluation, we need 3 steps. The first step is select one books that you can decide be used to a textbook. And the second is analyze and evaluate. And the last is report the result. Report the result is for the last step to conducting material evaluation. And the next is how to adapt textbook. To adapting textbook, we need several steps. The first is compromise between the materials on textbook on your development. And the second is add or delete content. Here is editing. The third is change or omit lesson or unit. And the fourth is modify text. Just like an editing, here we can add a pretext or provide extra explanation. And the last is teacher can collaborate on bank of supplementary materials. Okay, the next is, what are the reasons for adapting materials? The first is mismatch between materials and teaching development. And the second is mismatch learning style implied by material and learning style of most learners in the class itself. And the third is mismatch between instructions, material, and her teacher own personality, just like belief and teaching style. And the last is mismatch between course objective and focus on the book. And the next is explain about text type. Here I would like to tell you about the types. The types is classification by purpose. The first is for narrative text. Narrative text is about tell a story, just like a telling story. And the second is recount text. Recount text is tell what happened. It's about factual recounts and personal recounts. The third is instruction. Instruction is tell how to do something, just like I wanna do thing. Now here I tell you about the step itself. And the next is explanation. Here explanation is tell how or why something works the way it does. And the last is information reports. Information report is tell, organize, and classification or information. And the next question is I will explain about the language feature of the textbook. The first is narrative. Narrative, there are structure and language feature. For the structure, it's about setting and characters itself. And then the next is there is a complication, climax, and resolution. And for the language feature, about past tense, adverbial of time, place, and manner, direct speech, and the others. For the next is recount text. Recount text is a factual thing. It's about structure. The first, usually follow chronological order, except of newspaper article, and which give main event first and then a detail. And the next about language feature. The language feature is about past tense, adverbial of time clauses, and place and may use passive, indirect speech common, and third person pronouns. And the third is recount text. Here is mean about personal. The first structure. Structure is about orientation, detail, and usually or chronological order. Reorientation, pronouns common. And the next is the language feature from recount text. It's about past tense and adverbial of time, place, and manner. It's used about speech like the first person or third person. And the next is structure. Structure and language. Structure and language feature of each type. The first is instruction. The first is instruction. There are structure and language feature. Structure, it's material or ingredients. It's about procedure in sequential times. For language feature, it's about linear sentence or materials or ingredient section. The second is explanation. Explanation about structure and language feature also. It's about procedure described and passive voice often used. And the third is information report. There are structure and language feature also. There are often contains chart just like a list, diagrams, and may have few major sentence. And the language feature is many relation verb just like be, become, include, and etc. Majors tend to be in present tense just like uncle information is historical. And the next is coverage of teaching material. Coverage of teaching material is just like title, subject, and learning instruction, competence to be achieved, and exercise, work instruction, and evaluation. And the next is characteristics of good instructional content. Characteristic of good instructional contents is about the target. The target just like and straightforward, concise, and appropriate vocabulary, and avoid jargon and use humor appropriately. And the last is what are the guidance for selecting the material. Guidance selecting material, there is exciting material, educate, and the next is appropriate content, sequence correct, educate feedback, appropriate text, educate remedial, and educate learner guidance, and support for transfer. That is for me. It's about material, it's about teaching material. It's just about my now. For the mistake, I'm so sorry for all of my mistakes because I just studied, so it's not good if we have good speeches and or everything. I'm so sorry for everything. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.